Hola, hola. So, I want to make a video on when negative emotion is actually a part of your truth and what to do about that, because it's like negative emotion is so shunned and people are like, no one wants to be around negative Nancy and yada yada yada. And I mean, it's true. People don't really want to be around negative people if they're happy. But I'm going to break some things down about negative emotion and what it means when it's a part of your truth. All right, let me see if I can break this down as simply as I can. I'm going to be talking about this from a universal standpoint. So, in this universe, dark and light have to exist. You need contrast in order to understand what light is. So, like, let's pretend you are a star, you're light, you're shining, you're beaming. It's all you ever knew. There's no mirror, there's no nothing, it's just you existing in light. You have no idea what or who you are because you have nothing to reflect yourself off of to learn about yourself. You don't even know that you're happy. You just are. So that's what it is to just simply be light. And that's why it's so important in order to have contrast, why you need dark and light in order to understand what light is. And also, darkness doesn't have to be unenjoyable. Not necessarily. Darkness can be an enjoyable thing. It's just dark. All right. So, when negative emotion is a part of your truth and what to do. The thing to do about it is to allow yourself to be negative if you need to be negative. Now, number one, I believe that negativity being a part of your truth, when it's coming up for healing, when it's coming up for release, and when it's coming up for you to learn, it's very, very good. But when it's coming up to stew in it and beat the drum and make yourself feel worse and worse and worse and go down a depressing spiral, that's when it's not necessarily useful. Although it can be useful because it can teach you not to do that anymore. And also, not everybody's perfect. Sometimes we do go down that spiral because we get lost in the thought that we can't control our thoughts or control our mood, and sometimes it takes us going down that spiral to be like, whoa, I'm going to go down really low. I need to do something that makes me feel better. But anyway, there's value in dark. There's value in negative emotion. Also, some things have to be created out of negative truth. So let's say awareness is a great example of contrast and negativity. So we all know that we are all one, essentially. We have separated ourselves from source to observe who we are. We each our own egoic blueprints of ourselves. And so when we judge or when we point something out or when somebody's lied or done something wrong or whatever, we're actually judging ourselves. We're actually pointing out the negativity in ourselves when in reality we are all unconditional love and everything is perfect. But you need that separation in order to learn about who you are and how to evolve from it. Not to make it right or wrong, but to evolve to the next step of it. So awareness of in darkness and negative emotion, let's say like someone saying the government is trying to kill us. They got, chemicals in our food and chemtrails in the air, and they're narcissistic, and there's a 1% with all this money, and they're not distributing the money evenly, yada yada yada. That is judging, and that's deciding to not beat the drum. That's deciding to let negative emotion, which is a part of your truth, come up to the surface for healing, which is necessary. When you learn how to constructively use your dark energy, it can be a very powerful force. And then once you bring these things up for awareness, it's about, okay, now what now? What now? What do you do now? What can you do about it in this moment? You can either ask for something to change, or you can change something within change your attitude about it, or do something yourself. There's always three things you can do. Like when someone annoys me, I can ask them to stop if it feels right. I can leave, or I can change my attitude about it. But if I go trying to like smack them or something like that, then that's when I messed up divine order. So, well, I'm going to get into this. It's a little bit complicated because a lot of souls have evolved from carnal desire of like killing and hitting and stabbing and stuff like that. It's why in past lives we've killed. Some people have the rings on their neck. We've been hung in past lives. We've gone through it all. So that's why we have like an innate knowing from our Akashic records not to kill. Like when you were born and you were going throughout the world, you didn't know everything, but there was something inside you that knew you couldn't take a gun and shoot someone, and you didn't have anyone tell you that. So pretty much what I'm saying is darkness is always going to exist because darkness essentially is the separation from God/source and observing it. And when we are feeling anything but unconditional love, we are deciding to take a moment to separate ourselves from our true selves. Because we are not depression, we are not anger, we are not anxiety, we are not any of those things. But we decided to incarnate into this life, into this game, to explore those things, to understand who we are as an individual. So when we decide to dip into those emotions, we are separating ourselves and we are separating into darkness, which may or may not be a positive thing. And it can be a positive thing. And some things need to be created out of darkness in order to create a story, in order to create evolution, in order to create change, in order to create awareness, in order to learn about ourselves. Because we're already ascended masters, we just descended to go on an expansive, never-ending journey of growth. Now, what we consider to be darkness now, we're going to evolve from it eventually. Like, we're coming into awareness about even more sensitivities. Like, we know not to kill. We know like slavery is bad. We know like those basic things are bad. Now we're getting more particular in like psychological damage, narcissism, childhood wounds, understanding spirituality, not being limited by just the body and the mind. We are starting to get even more particular and more specific about what we consider darkness to be. For instance, there are some households who still value beating their children and disciplining them in a way of screaming at them and, putting them in their place and all this other stuff. That served for that time and space. And now we're entering an age where that's insanity, where we look at it and it's insanity. But when we have our children and our children have children, there's going to be some things that we do today that are going to be considered insanity, but worked for this time period. So as we move from a third dimensional world into a fifth dimensional world of oneness, what we are doing is alleviating suffering from our standpoint. And what I mean by that is from our bodily information of what we knew suffering to be, pretty much our darkness is going to lighten up to us. And so we're going to suffer less. But like, let's say a crystal child or a super sensitive, psychic, beautiful, divine being is born, my energy alone could be abusive to them because I have like pain bodies from my past lives and what's happened in my life, and I could be thinking, oh, the way I'm expressing myself right now is fine, and they could be picking up on all these very particular energies that are spewing out of me that trigger them because they're coming in from a different consciousness level and a different perspective. Like me being a Blu-ray child, being born into a family that valued Christianity and valued beating their children and valued, children are seen and not heard. I came in with a different consciousness level and understanding and was extremely sensitive to it in order to manipulate the environment around me to get that lineage to get with the times and evolve. So there's going to be more children that are going to do that. I mean, because it's not about right and wrong. It's about evolution. And right now we're evolving to a fifth dimensional world of oneness where we have an understanding of why people do what they do. We have an understanding that on some consciousness level we are all doing the same thing. And we have an understanding that everything is necessary and that we created this. And I can go into more detail on what oneness is, because a lot of people say we are all one and they don't really understand what that is. In order to truly know what oneness is, you got to really understand what it is, you know? But anyway, so there's validity in negativity, and negativity being in your truth. You didn't come here to just stand in light all the time. You need light in order to understand dark. And it's going to be a never-ending infinity of separation, judgment, and learning, and then backing up and seeing, oh shoot, we're all one. And yeah, so also I was going to say, you also can't control the consequences of your negative emotion. Your negative emotion is not right or wrong, it is. And there's a cause and effect to everything. So I know sometimes one of my insecurities is being someone who has put myself out there as sharing information and helping and healing people. Sometimes I'm like, okay, but what if I have a bad day, and what if I'm just a straight up bitch? And they're just like, whoa, who is she? Well, one, that enforces that nobody is ever your guru, and that people are always going to disappoint you, and to not look to anyone but yourself. And we are all just reflections of what we can pick and choose and learn from each other. Never look at anyone as like a beacon of light for your truth. So there's that. It's like, yeah, I'm going to disappoint you, and every leader is going to disappoint you, because in order to follow my evolutionary path and die and be reborn and die and be reborn, I have to fall into darkness, come into lightness. It has to happen. So that's why you have to live for you. But I was going to say, oh yeah, you can't control the consequences of your negative actions. So if it's in your truth to be negative and people don't want to be around you, then don't be mad. You have to follow your truth, and you have to accept the consequences of it. So maybe for a certain time, you just can't be around people, or those people can't handle or do not have compassion or empathy or understanding for that type of destruction. And it's okay. And you can't force people to be okay with it. You have to be yourself and let people come and go. All right, so that was like a rapid version of negativity and darkness and the benefit of it, and when it's a part of your truth. And I hope that helped you, and go ahead and be your goddamn self and say what the hell you want and live and learn and be free, okay? Bye.